Stu Ostro, meteorology supervisor. Stu, let's go through some of the information actually out over the islands. Our 1-minute satellite imagery showing us a little bit more detail.
Right. This is courtesy of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and also the Cooperative Institute for Research in the Atmosphere out in Colorado, showing a sequence of satellite images updated literally every minute. There are a couple of jumps in there, but particularly at the beginning, you can see all the little detail going on right around the eye of the hurricane. And as some of these clouds bubble up, particularly on the west side of Mobile Bay, that's where we've seen the strongest wind gusts approaching or even slightly exceeding 100 miles per hour.
Okay, our Doppler radar showing it appears that the heaviest rain occurring in the western eye wall here.
That's right, the heaviest rain and wind right in here, and unfortunately not only do we have to deal with these damaging winds, but extremely heavy rains.
Okay, close-up view of our Doppler radar and some other information. Kristen, can you show us where Kristen is here and what she's experiencing?
Okay, Kristen is just, well, first let's set up the center of the circulation is right about in there over Mobile Bay. Kristen is over here to the southeast, so it's actually, she's a little bit to the east and southeast of where the worst rain and wind is right now.
Okay, another advantage of our Doppler gives us wind velocity here. Tell us what we see with this picture.
Okay, it looks a little complicated, but we'll break it down. The radar site is here, and this shows the wind velocities. We give it a color scheme so that the blues and greens show winds coming toward the radar site. The reds and oranges blowing away, and then this is where it's actually blowing in this direction. Winds blow counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere around lows, so we're seeing that circulation. It's in these reds right here where up a little bit above the Earth's surface, the winds are pretty close to 100 miles per hour.
And briefly, our Doppler radar estimating rain.
This is of great concern. This is showing rainfall totals of well over 20 inches. We hope that that's an overestimation, but even if it is, we're talking a lot of water and no place to go.
All right, thanks, Stu. Again, that is Stu Ostro, our supervisor.
Yeah, you better believe it. We just stepped out of our hotel room, and it's absolutely unbelievable right now. I was kind of just sucked out into the strongest portions of the wind and almost lost the microphone. It was probably the strongest squall that we have had to date. When we're continuing to see the heavy rains as well, I want to pass on a couple more instances of damage. We have had reports a couple of hotels down where the roof of one hotel was made out of the pea gravel. All the gravel came blowing off of that and smashed all the car windows parked at the Holiday Inn hotel that was just next to it. We also have continued to get reports of some of the strong winds and also the roofs being blown off. This was a voluntary evacuation situation, and some people did leave, and later on more began to follow. But we have just received word that once you leave here, they are not letting you back. So if you're leaving now, it may be a while until you get back home. Rich?
All right, thanks, Kristen, for that update. We'll be checking back with you in just a couple minutes here.
Not as strong as they have ever been since we have in the eye of the high wall. We're continuing to get a lot of very gusty winds, and the sustained winds have picked up considerably, as well as the rain. It continues to be pouring down. One damage report that we have received in the past half hour, one incident rather, is a ferry boat that is now broken its mooring in Mobile Bay and is being tossed about in the center of the bay there. We had mentioned earlier that the evacuation here was voluntary, but a lot of people have started to evacuate as the storm got worse, and if they have left, they're not going to be allowed back on the island. The roads now have been blocked back on the island. No one is going to be crossing back over on the intercoastal bridge there. As you can see, the winds are quite strong as I step out into the full force of it. Yeah, this is the strongest it has been. This is absolutely phenomenal. Still seeing some damage as I look around the corner of the building. Still seeing debris flying there. And we have had reports of shingles and roofs being torn off. And the heavy rainfall, you mentioned that the Doppler estimated the rainfall at Dauphin Island 27 inches. And that wouldn't be a surprise to me at all, because it has been coming down here in just torrents. Most of it, though, you know, is being blown away. Probably not even half would be reaching a rain gauge, so the Doppler estimate is a pretty good indication, and I wouldn't doubt that 27 over. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Kristen. We'll check back in with you in about another half an hour. Well, again, join me is Stu Ostra, our meteorology supervisor here. Stu, we have some great satellite pictures here. Tell us about that and what we see.
Well, we see a very compact hurricane, and actually, if you look at the scale here, this is Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, several states around here. This is only a small portion of the country, and within those states, this is occupying, the worst of the hurricane is occupying just a very small fraction of those states, just the extreme western Florida panhandle, extreme southern Alabama, and then southeast Mississippi.
Okay, here's our satellite photograph. 1 minute pictures here. We can see some detail. And earlier, Jim Cantori is toward Pensacola Beach. It actually looks like there could be some sunshine there now.
That's right. The what we call the central dense overcast, which is basically as it sounds, the central part of the hurricane. The dense overcast clouds are confined to right about in here. Then we see a little bit of dry air coming in, and then some heavier squalls a little farther out from the hurricane.
Our Doppler radar showing us where the heaviest of the rains are. And even though Kristen is not in the heaviest of the rain, it's hard to imagine that, but just off to the west, what we are looking at as we zoom on in, heavy rain just to the southwest of her.
That's right. The center of the circulation is right about in there, and that's pretty close to where it was a couple hours ago this morning. It hasn't changed much, and we continue to see the air coming across the bay and literally piling up on the west side of the bay, causing these what we call intense convective bursts, which have the heavy rain and the very gusty winds.
And the north side of Mobile Bay actually is being dried out with the wind driving the water back toward the bay.
That's right. Winds coming out of the north or even north-northeast here. Along the west side of the bay, actually it's a little tricky. The winds may be coming down the shore as much as onshore. Might want to revise what we said a couple minutes ago, but in general, the wind wind piling the water in this direction.
And this is a rainfall estimate. This pink area is growing. That's a concern to us.
That's right. This is a Doppler radar estimate of the precipitation, which has fallen 27, 28 inches in there, at least by estimation. Sometimes in tropical situations, it underestimates the rainfall. We certainly hope that this is an exception.
All right. Thanks, Stu. We'll be checking back with you in about another half.